This section is all about legal rights and duties whilst working on licensed premises. First duty we have is the duty to prevent disorderly conduct on licensed premises. Essentially, we cannot allow disorderly conduct to take place, and we have to stop it. Now, this might be in a situation where we need to call security, and security needs to remove people from the premises, or refuse sales, or physically remove people from the premises ourselves. Essentially, we cannot allow people to break the law on our premises. If we allow this to happen, this can put our premises license at risk. It is the responsibility of all persons working on a licensed premises, whether paid or unpaid, to prevent disorderly conduct. As part of that, we all have a duty to refuse to serve a drunk. It's illegal to serve somebody on a licensed premises who is drunk. We cannot do this, it's against the law. So what we need to do is we need to look for subjective signs that somebody is drunk. These could be anything from how they're walking, how they're talking, are they able to keep their head up and make a conversation with you and keep eye contact. If they can't do this, you should always refuse the service. If you do refuse the service, remember to always depersonalize this. For example, saying it is against the law for me to serve somebody.
Hello, mate. All right, mate.
Another beer, please,
Barman. Another beer?
Yeah.
Yeah, so look, you look like you had enough for tonight.
I think you've had too much.
You had way too much fun tonight.
You have had way too much fun tonight.
I did, so much so that I'm not going to get a 90-quid fine.
You're not going to, neither am I. Can I have a beer, please?
I'm not going to lose my license.
I will not lose your license.
The venue's going to get fined, so I'll rather not.
Come on, one more beer, mate.
Nothing personal, mate, but it's not
one more beer.
Not going to happen, mate.
One beer.
Not going to happen. I'll get you a taxi. How about I get you a taxi?
What was our cocktail?
Now, when we talk about a drunk person, we're talking about a subjective analysis of their behavior. What I mean by that is we're looking at a measure which we're actually using our opinion to formulate. So when we're looking at a drunk person, we're simply looking at, can they make eye contact with us? Can they hold their head up? Are they slurring their words? Are they in a state where we don't think they should have any more alcohol? It's subjective because we're not measuring it against anything like an objective measure. So an objective measure for somebody's state of drunkenness would be either a breathalyzer or blood sample. We, working behind a bar, do not have those pieces of equipment available. So we simply are going to base it on their behavior. And we have a duty to refuse service to a drunk. If we serve a drunk person, we're back in the same position before where we get a £90 spot fine for serving a drunk person. So remember, if you serve a drunk person, you can get fined £90 for that service. A police officer in uniform can issue the fine for £90. If convicted through the courts, you can face a level 3 fine of up to £1,000 for serving somebody who's drunk. Failure to leave a licensed premises. Now, if I ask you to leave a licensed premises and you fail to leave, you're breaking the law. Also, what we need to focus on is if somebody refuses to leave. So if somebody refuses to leave a premises because they're acting in an inappropriate way. Now, this could be anything from not following the house rules, maybe insulting staff, becoming aggressive, a bit too rowdy, upsetting other members of the public. It's time for them to leave the premises. Now, obviously, initially what we want to do is we just want to ask them nicely to leave. In a perfect world, they would pack up their stuff and they would walk out the door at this point. Unfortunately, a lot of the time they may refuse to do this. Legally, we cannot allow them to stay on a licensed premises. So what we will need to do is possibly call security in, and security would then use reasonable and necessary force to remove the person from the premises.
Thanks very much.
Welcome.
Mate, which way are you going?
Sorry, man. I'm really sorry. I'm sorry, man. It's actually...
Fellas. It was an accident.
No, that wasn't an accident.
I didn't do anything.
Come on, you got a problem?
Sorry. No, man. I'm
You want to
sorry.
go outside?
Alright, listen, mate.
What? No, you need to calm down, mate. Don't tell me what to do. This is a public place. I'll do as I please.
Public place, but it's a private property.
Oh, do me a favour, mate. Come on, mate.
I'm really
You want
sorry.
some?
No, man, I don't.
Alright, listen,
yeah,
mate, I need you to calm
Mate,
down.
stay out of this, mate.
Can you help me out
Listen,
here at all, man?
What?
It's a final warning, mate.
Yeah?
I'd rather not, man.
Come on.
Do we
Right.
need to? We don't need to do that.
Listen, mate.
There's no need.
Mate, I'll do you as well, son.
Yeah, listen.
Come on.
You need to
Come on,
go.
come on.
What?
Yeah.
What are you doing, mate? What are you doing, mate? I'll see you outside, mate.
So the Licensing Act 2003 states quite clearly that no one should remain on a licensed premises if they're asked to leave, and failure to comply with that request is a breach of that act. We can ask the police to assist us with removing somebody from the premises. However, if we have our own security who are employed, who are SIA licensed, Security Industry Authority licensed, we can ask them to use reasonable, necessary and proportionate force to remove the person from the premises. Another thing that's very important to look at is irresponsible promotions. So irresponsible promotions would be me promoting the overconsumption of alcohol in a very short amount of time. So this could be anything from having posters up which showing massive consumption of alcohol to having deals where you could pay a small amount of money to drink an awful lot of alcohol in a very short amount of time. So encouraging the overconsumption of alcohol on the licensed premises is against the Licensing Act. So an irresponsible promotion, £10 entrance, all you can drink for 1 hour, would definitely imply that people need to drink as much as they can within that hour to get their money's worth. And this would then add to overconsumption of alcohol. Illegal drug activity. Obviously, it's illegal to allow drug activity to take place on a licensed premises. Illegal drugs on licensed premises are not acceptable in any situation. If you suspect illegal drugs are taking place at the venue, police should be called and the people should be removed from the venue immediately.
Right, mate, how you doing? All right?
Yeah, good, how you doing?
Yeah, mate, buzzing. Wicked atmosphere, innit? Proper vibes downstairs. DJ's playing some banging tunes.
You've got some powder on your nose, mate.
What?
You've got some white powder on your nose.
What's that?
Some white powder on your nose? You've been taking drugs?
No, mate, I've got a proper high-powered job in the city, mate. If anyone found out, I could get fired, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
God forbid if my girlfriend or my family found out.
Look,
mate,
mate,
you're a lifesaver, absolute lifesaver, yeah.
I'm gonna ask you to leave.
What?
I'm gonna have to ask you to leave.
Why?
You've got white powder on your nose, your eyes are bloodshot, you're very
Hey, do
erratic.
me a favour, everyone does it round here. What's the big deal?
Yeah, well look, we've got a zero tolerance with drugs in this place. So
mate.
either you leave,
Yeah?
or I'll call the police.
You'll call the police?
I will.
Oh, fine, mate. I'll leave then. Do you know why? Because it's rubbish here anyway.
Yeah, well you make your way downstairs.
Yeah, whatever.
Cheers.
We need to show all the authorities that we're doing our utmost to stop this from happening. So we need to do things like toilet checks. We need to do searching potentially, depending on the risk assessment. And we need to also deal with people who potentially are dealing drugs on a licensed premises. This includes staff training on how to deal with it. The overwhelming decision really is whether to call the police or not. And this will come down to the decisions that have been made by the police in conjunction with the council and the authorities when we applied for our premises license. If the police have a zero tolerance policy and they will want to be request a call for any kind of number of minor drug offenses that may take place, then we would follow that procedure. The likelihood in today is that under a certain amount, we would simply deal with it in-house by banning the person and ejecting the person and potentially either flushing the drug waste or bagging, tagging and putting in a drop safe for the police to collect at a later time. For larger quantity dealer type scenarios, we would likely call the police to deal with it directly. Other ways that we can help to reduce the amount of drugs on our premises are things that are simple. Things like having the toilets manned at all times, having good lighting conditions, SIA security that are doing foot patrols at all times, carrying out searches on customers as they come into the premises, as well as doing premises searches themselves. Remember, police have the power to close a premises where they believe drug activity is taking place, and this could lead to a review of your premises, and eventually it could lead to the premises actually losing its premises license. Any personal license holder who is convicted of allowing illegal drug activity to take place can face a suspension of their personal license or forfeiture of their personal license. Anti-violence strategies. So the government has enforced many different anti-violence strategies that they could draw upon to try and reduce violence in and around the nighttime economy. This includes things like antisocial behavior orders, drink-free zones, alcohol reduction zones, and banning orders that they can place on people. It's always good practice that violence is dealt with quickly and efficiently by all premises with a license. This, of course, includes having licensed SIA door supervisors who can deal with problems before they escalate too far. So the idea here is to try and stop the situation from getting to the point of violence before it gets to that point. So a couple of things we could do to try and reduce violence is ensure good staff training, quick, efficient, safe, and friendly service by staff behind the bar. This includes just, making eye contact, greeting customers, even if you're dealing with another customer, just so that they don't get frustrated, because frustration is normally what can take people down the path towards violence. Also, running only responsible promotions is another good way of reducing the chances of violence taking hold. And lastly, making sure staff are trained to remain calm in violent situations. That concludes this section. As usual, you can go to the bottom and have a look at some mock questions, and then let's move on to the next section.